Hey, Scorpio, let's go ahead and start. Almost said get done with your weekly reading. Let's get started with your weekly reading. Spirit, please show me Scorpio. What is the most important message? Orphaned. What's going on, Scorpio? Feeling orphaned right now? Feeling all alone? Feeling lost? Feeling abandoned? What's going on? Did you walk away from someone or did someone walk away from you? Did you lose your job? Financial difficulties? Like, what's going on here? Number 5, there is changes that are happening right now in your life, Scorpio. A sense of loss, an identity crisis, recognizing that you don't fit in, the need to belong, uncertainty about your place. The Oracle message says we were all meant to have connections with other people within our families, society, and the larger culture. No man is an island, and it's important to recognize when being a part of rather than separate from is essential to your well-being. The issue at hand is the need to find where you fit in. Be true to your core truths and values. Perhaps you no longer identify with a group or community the way you did before and need to find a new situation. You might be feeling a deep sense of loss or confusion. Address the need for belonging and know that you will find your place with others of like mind and spirit. It's okay to let go of pressure to fit in. Not everyone will understand you. It's time to move on. So I keep hearing abandoned by your family, abandoned. I'm getting financial abandonment because that is an abandonment. I've had that like where, I've lost a job and I'm like, oh my God. And I go into this grieving aspect, right? Where I'm just like so overwhelmed by grief and sadness and loss because you're not just losing a job, you're losing your means to be able to pay your bills. And then you're just at this lowest of low of like, oh my God, what do I do from here? So it can be really tough, abandoning like, oh my God, like when my cars would get wrecked and they were never wrecked by myself. It was always somebody borrowing them and totaling them out. And I would go into a grief process, or having to get rid of something, because cars to me, my cars have names, like, so there is a sadness and grief when you have to let go of, even material belongings. So it's almost like now you're at this precipice of like, okay, well, can't lose anything else. So the only way to go from here is up, So, I feel like it's just a matter of not feeling like you're being heard, not feeling understood. And there's some sadness, you feel like you're out there all alone. You can be surrounded by, hundreds of people and still feel all alone because you're the one going through the experience. Spirit, please show me Scorpio. Wow. Okay. This, I like this card, even though it doesn't really show movement, but this is about you planning your next steps for your future. Okay. It's about time that you plan the next steps for your future and decide what you want. 4 of Swords. There was another, I think it was Virgo that also got this in the same position. So you could have Virgo in your chart or you could be dealing with a Virgo. But besides that, the crossing card is the 4 of Swords. So it's almost like, these 2 cards and actually these 3 cards is like there's no movement. That horse isn't moving. He's just laying there and she's just sitting there with her head down. So I feel like, the challenge is you need to come out of this. Like, and this is a grief process. He's got the 3 of Swords. 3 of Swords is about sadness, regret, loss, pain, separation, breakups, and he's like praying to heal, praying, but he's ready for a battle. He's got that 4th sword, but you've been through a battle. And that's why in both of these cards, you're wearing your armor. Because you're in a very vulnerable space right now when I see the orphaned card. So this is in the present. So this is about you planning your next steps for the future. Oh my God, I looked at the bottom of the deck and we have the 3 of Swords. Cannot make this up. So yes, there has been some type of a breakup or having to let go of something, and it could have been very painful. It's not could have been, it has been very painful for you. You feel like you're being stabbed in the heart. It's like I can't take one more sword. I just can't. And because of that, it's like, because we can't take anymore, we put on this armor so that we can protect ourselves. And I feel like you're very much in a protection mode, Scorpio. Seven of Pentacles, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it even worth putting in any more effort? And am I going to get a return on my investment in all of the things that I'm planning for my future? I think it's good that sometimes we hit this rock bottom phase, because the only way to go from here is up. So if things aren't working out, whether it's financially, because for some of you, it is that financial abandonment, and it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do, from this point forward? And it's like, you put a lot of energy and effort into something, and are you getting the payoff? Are you getting your return on your investment? Seven of Swords, liar, cheater, thief. You could have caught somebody lying, cheating, stealing. And for others of you, this is about you strategizing to get the fuck out of Dodge. Maybe even literally. We've got the King of Wands as your overall energy, or what's on your mind is this King of Wands. Did this King of Wands leave you out in the cold? Were they a chameleon? Were they shapeshifters, liars, cheaters? What did this King of Wands do? I want to know. Wow, they left you out in the cold. Five of Pentacles. They left you out in the cold. For some of you, they left you financially depleted. You probably invested in someone else more than you invested in yourself, and this person got away with everything. Spirit, please show me Scorpio. Oh, wow. Okay. Two of Pentacles. Yeah. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, juggling. It's funny because we've got the 7 minus 5 equals 2. Okay. So yes, you did invest a lot into this King of Wands, but the King of Wands could also be about you taking action on, whatever plans you're making for your future. And the Knight of Wands here is about somebody either writing in with some type of a message, because the Knights are message bringers. They bring in something. For some of you, again, this is like traveling. Be mindful not to battle with anyone, really be grounded. You need to stay grounded in whatever has happened here. What else do we have here for Scorpio? We've got the 9 of Wands. You're definitely very battle worn right now. After everything that you've been through, you've had to let go of a lot, Scorpio. And what do we got for your outcome? 4 of Cups. Yeah, you're not really quite sure about, accepting any type of offers. Be mindful of anybody who is coming back from the past. You could run into this person from the past, and then you could be like trying to reevaluate, did I do the right thing? Because that's what the 2 of Pentacles represents. Should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I? Should I go back? And for some of you, if this is a relationship, this is just like the one night stand. They come in, you guys have a one night stand, and they ride out just as quickly. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of accepting offers from people from the past, because I feel like you're just going to end up right back in the same situation. Okay. 5 of Cups is the overall energy. This is like, no use crying over spilt milk. Not all is lost. It's time for you to cross that bridge and go somewhere new. I feel like turn around. You've got 2 cups that are still full. Stop crying over the 3 that have spilt, that there's nothing left. For some of you, yes, this very well could have been like a third party situation. And, you're embarrassed about the way things went. I think that for a lot of you, if this is a relationship situation, it was just more intimacy than anything, but there was no grounded energy. If anything, they were depleting your energy. They said that they would show up and they didn't. They said that they would do, this, and this, and they never followed through with any of what they promised you, I feel like. And because of that, it's like, the 3 spilt cups that are here that he's crying over are the same 3 spilt cups that are over here, of like, again, looking at what has been lost and not what you are gaining. It's like you've got your head down. You're so focused. Okay, well, the 4 is like you were focused on the cups and they were still full. The 5 is like, okay, now they're not still full, yet you're still not seeing the blessings that are around you. There's still blessings around you. There's still people around you, but it's almost like you've adopted this mentality of like, everybody's just the same. Everybody's going to leave me. Everybody's going to hurt me. Everybody's, and it's like, That's just not the truth. It's just the vibration that you are putting out. You know, the one thing about your reading this week is I don't see any major arcanas. You know, there are no major arcanas in your reading. So it's like you hold the most weight in the choices that you're making, but try not to be too hasty about what you're doing. Maybe the challenge is that you do need to kind of sit back and reevaluate the way things have been in the past so you don't recreate the situation. You know, we've got the 5 of Cups, we've got the 5 of Pentacles, and we have the 5 here. So you could be seeing 555. Fives are change created by outside forces beyond your control, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yes, you are wounded. Yes, you are emotionally frustrated and hurt and sad because you probably would have never thought to do this to anyone else. Or this is vice versa. This is something that you've done to someone else, and you know, and maybe this person no longer trusts you, you know, you can't even trust your own picker, or this individual's like, I don't know. So, you know, because we are in Mercury and Venus retrograde, my suggestion is I wouldn't, you know, I really, if anybody pops back up, I don't know that I would even want to reevaluate the situation. I think that if anything, you know, you need to remember why this individual walked away in the first place, or why this person walked away from you. What did you do to create a scenario where you brought hurt and pain into another person's life? Or vice versa. But here's the deal. People only mirror reflect what we're putting back or what we're putting out. So if you come into a new union and you're coming in with all your despair and your abandonment issues and your mommy daddy issues and your financial, you know, abandonment and all this other stuff, well, then you're going to recreate that in the partners, in the friendships, in the environments that you choose to be a part of. So my suggestion is work on coming out of this and learn to take action on your own process of healing. You know, invest in a healer. You know, we always say, oh, I can't afford that. That's too expensive. But you can afford all this other garbage and bullshit, you know, that you know, you put time and energy into other things. Why can't you put time and energy into your own healing? You know, so I feel like for a lot of you, you're just trying to run away from your own situation. And I feel like, you know, the challenge is you really need to, you know, heal, you know, ask for help, because it's like, you know, you see these people in that window and they're looking in and they're like, I can help you. But because he's all walled off, you know, he's in hiding right now because of everything that he's been through. He, she does not matter. You know, the genders are, there's no gender in the tarot, but yeah, it's like I see a lot of you guys planning for a trip, or somebody could be taking a trip in to come and see you. Again, just be mindful of the one night stands. We do have 2 nights here. You know, like I said, there could be an opportunity of a job offer, but it's almost like you're not even seeing it. There's other opportunities, because it's really funny. I'm looking at this 4 of Swords and you've got the people in the window, and then you got the 5 of Pentacles, and it's the same window. It's like, you know, they're begging for help, but they're not paying attention to their surroundings because help is there. That's like, you know, in the tarot, this is like a church, right? And all they have to do is just knock on the door or walk into the church, and they can get food, they can get warmth, they can get comfort. You know, I'm not a whole church being kind of person, but that's just what the card meanings are. You know, that's what the cards represent. So it's like, you know, ask for help, you know, invest in help. Yeah, it might cost you a little bit, but in the end, it ends up more fulfilling when you're willing to invest in your healing instead of, you know, spending, you know, bullshit money on Starbucks and whatever the hell else, you know, vices that you're, you know, using, you know. So I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Try not to get into a fight with anybody, because we do have the King of Wands, Knight of Wands, 9 of Wands. This can be very fiery energy, but it can also be very sexual energy. And my suggestion is, you know, use that sexual energy for manifesting a better life instead of, you know, going out and doing whatever you're going to do and having that one night stand and then ended up feeling like shit in the process of it, you know. So Funny, I just looked through that. Work through your fears. Spirit, what else do we have here for Scorpio? You got 2 cards out. It's time to breathe out, or take time to breathe out, and adjustments are required. So you need to adjust the way that you're looking at a certain situation. Stop blaming other people for your unfortunate circumstances. Because I feel like when we're still blaming other people for why things are the way that they are in our lives, like you're blaming Biden, you're blaming Trump, you're blaming Elon, you're blaming, all these, blaming an ex, blaming your family, blaming your friends, blaming your work, blaming, like you're not getting anywhere. Take decisive action on how you want to move forward with a certain situation instead of playing the victim and the martyr. This is definitely like the martyr. I'm going to hold on, I'm going to hold back. I'm not going to accept anything because it's just going to be like everything else. Like, don't adopt that way of being. I think that you need to, yes, we're all wounded. Every single one of us is battle worn. We've been through a lot of loss, death, endings. Like, it's been par for the course for the entire collective. It's not just you. It's like, so don't take things to heart. Don't take things as if like, oh, that's a sting against you, because it's not necessarily. It's just to get you to move into a new direction so that you don't have to keep recreating this scenario in your life, And then, but it puts you into alignment with other people who are much more in the frequency of what you want to be. But you can't have that when your hands are still full of all the people and the ideas of the way you thought things should be. If they're not the way things should be, then that's not the way they were supposed to be. Because trust me, God, the universe did not get it wrong. They took people out of your life for a reason. And you guys tend to take that to heart, and you want to get, your revenge on this person, and you want to see karma, and some of you want to be active players and all of that. And I wouldn't suggest that, just because you're hurt and whatever else. So my suggestion is, I would not keep going back into situations that just leave you feeling depleted. So I'm going to leave that there, Scorpio, subject to interpretation. If you're interested in a personal reading, all my information is in the description box down below. I do want to say to some of you, if someone did pass away, my condolences to you as well. Okay. That's not going to be for everyone. And that's not a prediction. This has already happened. So some of that grief can also be from losing a loved one. Okay. So also, I do want to say here, be careful of driving too fast, because you might end up getting a ticket, and then you're like, well, I gotta, I can't afford da 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 da, and it's like, well, then don't do things that could get you in trouble. So just keep that in mind. Take some time to breathe, take some time to rest, take some time to really look at your situation and see how we can make some changes based off of where you are now and where you want to be in the near future. Make sure that those goals are tangible. So, start small and gradually move yourself up. Don't try to make a goal that's so fucking huge that it's going to take years and years. It's not that you can't accomplish it. It's just like one step at a time, So however that resonates with you. Anyway, love you guys all so much. Take care.